You're listening to the iRacers Lounge podcast, where we discuss everything iRacing in a casual setting. Enjoy.
Lounge. I'm your host, Mike Ellis. iRacers Lounge is a podcast for the iRacer, where we talk all things iRacing in a casual setting. Joining me are the usual characters, AJ Pritchett.
Wait, I'm usual now?
That's right, Brian McCubbin.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
David Hall.
Hey, Greg, did you pay your rent?
Greg Hectus.
Hashtag rent free.
And Tony Groves.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey. Well, today's show, Evan Pasoko will be joining us to cover the Coke Series race at Auto Club. We'll recap a great day at Sebring for some Tifosi teammates and our impressions on the NIS on Bristol Dirt.
Also, remember that you can follow along with us on your mobile device in real time as you listen to the show to see yourself and all the great topics and products we'll discuss by visiting iRacersLounge.com and selecting show notes. We hope to see you there.
GridFinder is the home of online sim racing leagues. GridFinder is also a great resource to find paint designers and race commentators. Recently, they've been adding some great articles discussing various aspects of running leagues and sim racing in general. GridFinder is constantly adding helpful content and giving us all the more reason to visit www.grid-finder.com. Visit it to find a league or upload your own. GridFinder, the home of online sim racing leagues.
All right, guys, first up on the topics is the Porsche Super Cup. This past Saturday was round 8 of the Porsche Tag Heuer Super Cup Series, and they were at the Nürburgring at the Nordschleife circuit. And so the first sprint session was won by Sebastian Job. Takes the win in that. He outpaced Josh Rogers to take second in the sprint race. And in the feature race, the win goes back to Josh Rogers again. So Josh Rogers with the feature win, man, he has taken a huge lead in that series, 127 points, which is almost two races worth of points. So with 2 races to go, this thing is pretty much wrapped up. I mean, he would actually just have to not show up for 2 weeks and somebody else have to do really well, but it's pretty much wrapped up. Josh Rogers has a pretty much near insurmountable lead. It's really not much else anybody can do. It was a really interesting race. Of course, you know, the Nordschleife is that huge circuit. It's kind of weird to see, you know, the 3-lap race, but yeah, it still takes, you know, 25 minutes to run 3 laps almost. There was an interesting point where Sebastian Job and Josh Rogers were moving up through the field in the heat race or the feature race, and Sebastian Job blew a motor, which was very unusual in these Porsche cars. He was cresting a hill, and they thought something with him downshifting coming up to this crest of the hill caused it to blow his motor, which is very odd. But yeah, it was a really good race, and I'm always impressed how well these guys know this circuit, being such a long circuit.
Too much tape, maybe?
No, it wasn't a temperature thing. It was something to do with that jump. I don't know if the announcers were saying that maybe it had something to do with him downshifting in midair and revving it up too high, and then landing, and you know, all the torque hitting the wheels.
That is kind of an oddball thing, though.
I have actually seen a meatball from going over the wrong sausage curve in the prototype cars before, but that I've never seen anything with any of the actual GT cars.
I missed that race, but I did get to see the one before it, though. That was interesting. Dave Cam won.
Yeah, Dave Cam, he took the win in the first sprint series race, the initial race, and he was doing really well in the main feature too before he actually got into a sub spin deal. So So he didn't win the second race. Dave Cam won the first, and then Jimmy Broadbent actually wound up taking the victory in the main feature of the Porsche All-Star race, which is, again, very good racing. Those guys really know that track as well. Tony Kanaan was back in it again this week. He didn't fare so well. I think he got to an incident where that slowed him up. It was quite interesting at the end of the race. Jimmy Broadbent was on a post-race interview after his win, and you could see how excited he was about that. He was really excited to win that race.
It's been a good series. Yeah, it looks like Josh Rogers is sitting pretty though.
So talking of the prototypes, me and Greg did get to run the 12 hours of Sebring this weekend, and we brought home another endurance race podium.
Nice. P3, huh?
Yeah, it was me, you, and Richie there, Richie Hearn. It was an interesting race. I mean, David, we had some issues during it. Richie had the worst luck at the end there. We were running P2 about 20, I think it was 26 seconds ahead of the next place guy and keeping the gap. And a GTE got wide on the first turn, hit the grass, and came across in front of Richie, and he had nowhere to go. Nice thing about these cars is the front clips, the back clip, and the wing can be replaced on down pit road. It just costs time. And it cost us 32 seconds, and we ended up losing out because of that.
Yeah, I got hit twice in my 4 stints or 2 stints, whichever way you want to count it. I had a GT3 actually spin going into the horseshoe behind me and run into me on early, and it caused the rear ring damage, about 20 seconds of damage we had to go ahead and fix. And then at some point I had a GT3 that decided he wanted to let me by, so he pulled out of line in Le Mans, which is the S's, and then just slammed on the brakes in a place where you would not expect it, and I plowed right into him and had to fix 30 seconds of damage again. But that was one of those woulda, coulda, shouldas. Might have had the win, but it was still good to have those problems and still bring home the podium.
I think the worst part of it, David, is when guys let you by, that I've noticed in these endurance, and I know obviously the team chat, it comes into a lot of it, but they don't give you a heads up when they're doing it. They just slow, and you never get the, go inside, go outside.
Yeah, and it's, well, and you get in these endurance races and there's a lot less experience. When you're the slower car, you want to run the racing line until the fast car is beside you. Until then, never take the other line, because that LMP is not going to be able to predict what you do. So you run. If I'm the GT car instead of the LMP, I run the S's until he gets beside me. Then if he gets beside me and I have to brake a little early, that's okay, but that doesn't mean we're going to wreck. But this guy, he decided to go ahead and try to go out wide and slam on the brakes. But one of the ways that I usually pass GTs is I'll go out wide and then cut under him on exit. So I went out wide too and just drove right into him.
Now, I was watching the forums and stuff to see what kind of things might go wrong with a big event, but that was the thing, guys. Nothing did go wrong that I saw. Everything was smooth as silk.
I don't even know. Did you see what the numbers were for that time slot, David, when you signed up?
No, it was like 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah, so it's, it had a good turnout. We the best part about ours is we had all 3 classes too, so we had GTEs and GT3s with us as well, being in the LMP too. So that makes the racing a lot more interesting, and who you're coming up in to lap, or being lapped too, because we were consistently 1 lap down most of that race. The leader was just got ahead early and maintained it. We were just as fast, you just couldn't get it back.
I think Tony knows how many drivers they had, though.
Oh, Well, I don't have a calculator here, so I can't really add them up. But we do have stats from Rob Crouch. He put them up for, I guess, all the cars that were running this thing, and yeah, there was a lot. So the Dallara car had 3,100 drivers, and the GTE was 3,800 drivers, and 2,000 drivers for the GTD. So, add those up together. There's a lot of guys. A lot of people were racing. Lots of teams.
All right.
And, well, the big takeaway for this one here is, like, this past event was the most amount of participation that they've had, at least since 2016, when they've got stats for anyhow.
So a lot of that inexperience, like you were talking, David.
Some of the neat stats that he tracks is drivers who completed the most laps. Ivan Marino, 384. Holy cow.
Yeah, the race was 400 and change, right? Or somewhere in the 400s, if I remember. So under 400, yeah. So that guy ran a race by himself then, pretty much.
What's crazy about Rob with this one here is, like, he's got each split broken down and gives stats on each split, and that's in each, of the different cars.
Right, as well as who finished podium. So yeah, it's really neat visual way to look at what happened on the event. I didn't even run it, but I can look at these forum posts and come away with a good idea of what happened.
Well, how about enough of stats, and why don't we look at a listener? Let me see here. A listener sent in a video here. Is this a Twitch video?
Well, how about we do the Coke race first?
Here we go.
Because guess who's here? Evan Pasoko.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on, and sorry about being a couple minutes behind. A busy day today, but excited to talk about an exciting race we had this week.
Well, it was California, and I guess I'll start calling it the old configuration, because supposedly we'll have a new one here coming up. So this might be the last race we've run on it.
Yeah, there's a chance. I know that we had the track president as our our grand marshal and our kind of pre-race guest, and we were able to tape an interview with him and play that on the show. And we still don't know exactly when they're going to take the bulldozer to it and decide to go from the big track to the little track. So it is a good chance, maybe, that it was the last race there. I think with it not getting an actual date, that we may just see it one more year, but soon enough it'll be Legacy Fontana, and that's kind of a shame to think about because the racing was fantastic.
Yeah, we got to look at I guess we'll call it the dynamic track multiple groove thing. Some from changes here recently in 2021 that iRacing have made. Let's talk about the race though. First up, clean and green. By lap 10, it was Keegan Leahy leading Mitchell DeJong. It was about 6-7 car lengths. Mike Conti in third. They were about 4 wide for a couple of laps there in the middle of the pack. Free falling through the field was Ryan Luza after he caught the wall after a block from Nick Ottinger. Luza started 10th and is on the outside of the top 20 on lap 13 now. The leaders pits lap 22. That was a surprise. Leahy under green.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere, right? And he was really the only driver to go that off on the strategy, right? The race would kind of turn into a 2 different strategy option, the 2 stoppers and the 1 stoppers, and Keegan opted he didn't go for a 3. I mean, he wasn't totally different, but he went so early as opposed to kind of cutting the race into thirds that at times it looked like an awful call. At other times it looked like it could be I forget who we jumped on with the radio there, but one of the drivers said that it could be a big brain move, right? And he kind of outsmarted the field. So we didn't really know when that happened at lap 20 if anybody else was going to go with him. But, he's a race winner. And I'm willing to bet you guys Keegan doesn't do that last year, where it's not win in, you're in. But because he's already got a W this year, these are the kind of things he can do.
Yeah, and it was interesting. Set up the fuel mileage right off the bat. So lap 26 and beyond, it was Bobby Zielinski, Nick Ottinger, Mike Conti, basically a casual 3-wide racing for the lead, swapping back and forth the spots. And then regular stops were happening about the third mark. It looks like 14 drivers had still yet to pit by lap 43.
Yeah, and those were the drivers that were going to push it to the one stopper, right? So take Keegan out of the equation. There was the 2-strategy race. There was the 2-stopper, which is you come in at about 33, so the 1/3 distance. Then you were going to come in somewhere near lap 66 towards the end of the race. That'll be your second stop, and you're good to go to the end. And then there were the drivers that were trying to push it to halfway, and we thought that maybe it would be a little bit tough, not necessarily fuel-wise to get to the end. It would require a little bit of saving, but we didn't know how the tires were going to hold up, and that ended up not being an issue. I don't know how many drivers maybe waited to see. The fact that we were green to that point, I think, played a huge factor in how many drivers, you mentioned about 14 or so that wanted to stretch it to that halfway point and hadn't pitted after, the first 44 some odd laps of the race. But it worked out to where this race was very fluid and allowed some drivers, from the mid-teens, kind of mid-pack to all of a sudden find themselves in a pretty good spot.
Yep. So the next part of the race was basically green flag cycle, the stop cycle. Matt Busa was leading. Blade Whitt unlaps himself, and all 40 were back on the lead lap. Derek Justice took over control as well for a while. And then we got to see a neat segment where you showed Isaac Gann getting spotted by David Schildhaus from Parker Kligerman. And we got to watch them for a couple laps and just kind of see the driver-spotter communication.
Yeah, we tell everybody about what's happening with the drivers and the spotters and the teams, and we have Justin report on it, and we get some of the recorded audio, but we hadn't been able to take it live, right? I mean, sometimes we did it on restarts. I believe we've done it in the past, but we obviously planned this ahead of time to make sure that we had a camera with David, and I guess short-lived because David, I think they just announced today, David's going to be moving over to Spot for the 77 car, and it's going to switch. So David's going to go, and basically they're going to swap between Gann and Bryant. But it's a cool insight, right? To see how much happens outside of, and it's the point I made on the broadcast, outside of just car low, car high, but it's that other stuff. What lane is this guy running? How far back? What's the lap times for somebody like a Keegan, right? On a different pit strategy coming through the field. Saves the driver a lot of stress when the driver doesn't have to be looking at his relative and calculating this on your own when you got a spotter that can do more than just spot.
And that's what he was doing. He was watching Keegan and giving him how fast he's coming up through there and that kind of thing. It was interesting for sure. So 48 to go. It was Bob Bryant, the final driver to pit for the first green flag pit cycle. He might be good to make it to the rest of the way, it was said. 47 to go. Keegan Leahy is back into the lead after that cycle, but only 4 laps later, he pits from the lead again, and which about, maybe 8 laps later, opened the floodgates for all those 2-stoppers, and they start pouring in.
And that was the weird point where I think it was Conti went a little bit earlier, right? So you had Keegan obviously pit all on his own because he was the only driver to pitted, a fifth of the way through the race. And we're kind of waiting on everybody else to get the 66. And all of a sudden, Conti kind of splits that difference and then comes in about a dozen laps earlier than what we were expecting. We saw, you just mentioned with guys like Bob Bryant going as many, I think, as like 53 or so laps on that first run that, well, you can pit with 40 to go. That's not going to be anywhere near an issue on fuel. The question was, that the right call, right? Because They gave up a lot of time to Keegan. First cycle, in theory, you're going to want to run your strategy out and try to use that advantage, and it comes back on the back foot where you have the advantage tire-wise and try to make up the track position that guys like Keegan got on you initially. And it didn't end up working, right, for Michael Conti. He ends up behind, I think, a lot of the drivers in the end of this race that he was running with. I still feel like that wasn't a planned call. I feel like he kind of called an audible there and followed after Keegan. But you're right. Once Keegan comes in, everybody's thinking, all right, this could be it to the end now. We're fine. Then Michael comes in, and there was about maybe a 4-lap buffer, and then people started trickling down. The bulk of the cars still decided for the two stoppers to come in at about lap 66-ish. But certainly it was a lot less uniform on the second cycle of the green flag pit stops as opposed to earlier in the race where all those two stoppers came in within about 3 laps of each other.
Yeah, and Keegan Leahy was 19 seconds back from Derek Justice, who was on the one stopper. 33 to go. Bobby Zielinski pits from the lead. Mitchell DeJong and Logan Clampett also pit. Keegan Leahy's within 10 seconds of the lead with 30 laps to go. Bob Bryant was on kill, though. The driver's one of the 2 drivers to pit past that halfway mark. The other was Malik Ray.
Yeah, he was good, right? I mean, all he had to do was hit 50, and he was going to be fine to the end. He went like 53, right? So in theory, Bob probably did a little bit of saving on that first run. So yeah, that was the quote, right? Full kill. He could just go out. You had Malik Ray also, and there was other drivers. I mean, it was a good number of cars that were on the one-stop strategy. I don't think it was as many as the 2, but it was pretty close, right? It wasn't like it was just a ragtag group of 5 and they were kind of going rogue. I mean, the one-stop strategy was a pretty good one, but I think that Bob being able to go that much longer than everybody else in the first run meant that while he wasn't having to save, I think most of the other drivers were saving about as much as they were in the first run, and that's why I think that 77 was able to separate himself from the majority of the cars that he had kind of been running around in the first half of the race.
And then from that point up front, 22 to go, Bob leads Derek Justice, Isaac Gann. They're the front runners on that one-stop strategy. But the tires have leveled off at this point, and Leahy isn't coming anymore. He's basically running the same lap times. And so it was really down to those 3 as it stayed green, and it did. And so Bob Bryant picks up his first career NASCAR Coke race win at California.
And I had to make sure because, you hear Bob Bryant, it's a name that's been around for so long. The fact that this is still only his second year in this series, right? So it's only his, made 20-something start to get the job done and get the race win. For a guy that's been around for so long, I'm like, there's no way it's only a second year, right? But of course, just had never gotten to the Coke Series. And there was other guys real close, right? Derek Justice, Isaac Gann were right there. Those are guys as well looking to break into victory lane. But Bob, I think, is one of the most popular drivers on the grid amongst the field of competitors, if you will. So it's cool to see a first-time winner come out of that one. I know that we had seen Eric Smith get his first career win here in Fontana a couple of years back when that was a night race, and that's I think why I'm always a fan of races like this, right? Caution free for all 200 miles allows somebody from the mid pack because Bob started past 20th spot. I think he was in the back half of the field on the grid and was able to drive his way not only through the field, but also make the right strategy call to go on to get the win. So that was real cool to see for the 77. And all of a sudden, we've got 5 different race winners in 5 different weeks, right? That's the streak that the Cup Series has got going through 7, I think now, 6-7 weeks. And we've held it through 5. So pretty impressed with the job Bob did and good to see him get a win.
And he earned it. I mean, Derek and Isaac were there to keep him honest totally. And he had to beat those 2 guys, and he did. But how about rookies, Derek and Isaac? I mean, Isaac is just on fire.
He's doing real good, right? I mean, I just talked about the bit of a change there that's going to happen with the spotting situation. So I hail of a different spotter from David Schildhouse next week, but it was a great night. All in all, for Kligerman Sport. Of course, the story coming out of Atlanta was it was such a good night for Burton, or such a good night for William Byron Esports, I should say. But Kligerman Sport had a real good night out, and it makes us it validates us, if you will, when we say at the start of the year, quarter of the field's rookies. Don't be surprised if they bring it to some of the vets, right? And up front in the race, it was the big names, right? It was the Leahys and the Contis up there, but even a guy like John Gorlinski, right? I mean, just behind Justice and Can, obviously, a very different story in terms of how long they've been around at this level compared to those guys in second and third. But seeing a guy like Gorlinski get back up and into a fourth place finish shows that if these races can go green and you can allow some of that strategy in where there's saving on fuel, and obviously that's, I think, what made the difference for Bob Bryant was being able to get that little bit extra out of the first half to drive it hard to the end. You had a guy like Gorlinski who was able to maintain throughout the whole race. I think that it allows some of these drivers who aren't a fan of the way this car drives still to actually have some, driver input where that experience can come into play.
Yeah, great video of showing Bob at the checker, happy and jubilant. But also there was a great video of Parker Kligerman at the end of the race, going crazy and being real happy as a team owner. And then iRacing showed off the dynamic track with some of that side-by-side we saw throughout the night.
Yeah, I think that multi-groove racing that iRacing brought back or reinstituted. I mean, I know it's not exactly what it was like before, but it does the job, right? We talked about it in Atlanta with drivers working up top, and even here in Fontana where you're right, that video of that three-way battle for the race lead that you were talking about, that was kind of right after Leahy dropped down pit road between Zelensky and Conti and Ottinger, I think those three, right? I mean, middle, bottom, high, cross it over, tuck it in line, doing everything they could. It's fun. Unfortunately, for my sake, I can never feel what the multiple grooves are like because I'm no good. So I rely on watching the guys on track on Tuesdays to show it off. And I think that, when we heard that this was going to be instituted, we kind of saw it in the build notes. Everybody immediately thought of places like Homestead and some of the other tracks where you're more so used to seeing those multiple grooves. But to be able to have those options, I think mostly across the board is going to be cool, right? I think that was a throwback to some of the 2016 racing that we saw with the lower downforce and higher horsepower package, and with the full dynamic track where drivers were able to go all over the place. I think it was obviously a right call. I know that iRacing is going to continue to tweak it. They've made tweaks since it came out initially. I know Atlanta was modified before the race and whatnot, but I think they nailed it on the head, and the drivers have had great feedback. They've been the ones pushing, right, to get this back. They want to be able to do more than just a parade in one line, and the driver feedback is the biggest indicator to me that iRacing's done it right, because from everything I saw on Twitter and Facebook after the race on Tuesday, they seemed thrilled with how it drove. At least the guys in the top half of the field. Guys in the back half didn't have as much fun, but
all right, I was peeking at the points. Boy, it's early in the season, but I want to take a look, and I think the big thing that jumps out at me is, Ray Alfala 39th out of 40.
Yeah, it has not been good. And somebody like an Ashton Crowder as well, who's way down there. You got both of the Richmond Raceway guys in Mullis and Novak, but there were some positive steps, right? Somebody like a Gorlinski in the top 5 tonight. He moves up to 27th in the points, not where he wants to be, but still, maybe, I don't know if it's too early, but maybe starting to think, just trying to stay in this series, although all you're going to be is top 20 and get one win, right? So that changes the dynamic. But yeah, I mean, Ray's just off this year, and, guys like Crowder, Reynolds, then I would have thought we'd see more of. Even a Graham Boland, 24th, pretty surprising to me. So I know it's early on, but it is really tough to dig yourself out of a hole. And I think that win in you're in is going to save somebody. I think we're going to have, top 20 is the number. So somebody like a Hurst or a Lyon or a Matheson, who normally would be thinking, I need to be top 20 to stay in this series for next year. They're going to be thinking, I need to be there to get a win, to advance myself to the postseason. I think we'll see one driver kind of take that option and be the surprise entry and see if they can make some noise when they get into that 10 driver playoff later this year. But for all the downs of those drivers as well, there's been a lot of drivers I've been impressed with. Steven Wilson up there, Matt Busa with a return to form as well, Zach Nichols and Isaac Gann, all top 20 cars. So unfortunately, for there to be good stories, there's going to be bad stories, right? We can't fit all 40 in the top 20. So yeah, it's tough for guys like Ray and that, and we'll see if 5 races is enough of an indication to see, are these guys really that behind, or if we'll continue to learn more, but it's certainly not looking good.
All right. 2 weeks from now, we got Richmond. What do you expect to see upcoming on Richmond?
I think this is the one question mark that's left, right? We haven't had a short track yet. We've gone to Daytona, Homestead, Vegas, Atlanta, Auto Club. We've tried out all the different big tracks. Haven't really tried a short track yet, right? And this is more so where drivers can get away a little bit more with not having the set, right? I mean, you can know pretty quick when we get to Kansas the week after Richmond if your team missed the mark on the setup. You're going to know pretty quick. You're going to feel that handicap. At Richmond, you can get away with it a little bit more. It's going to be a race that I am not putting money on going caution-free like Auto Club was, and I think that's the one question mark left. After that, we'll have a sampling of a little bit of everything but a road course race. And then if I don't see improvements from the guys outside of the top 25, top 30, then if they don't have it on the short tracks, then you're looking at already nearly halfway through the regular season. Hard to believe, that we're flying by and nearly at that point already. But that's the one question mark is what do these teams have on a short track package? And we'll learn that in 2 weeks.
Okay, very good. It was a great race. Evan Pasoko, thanks for coming on and telling us all about it, and we'll see you then.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to come on chat every week, guys. We'll catch you next time.
All right, that brings us back to AJ with the Twitch video.
Yes, we got to thank Garrett Streets for this one. He's sending in a video from Bacho Grande. I'm sorry if I'm botching that. John Bacho, an iRacing streamer who is legally blind and picked up his first win. So I have this video up. I have to watch it real quick, guys. I didn't know anything about this.
It was interesting for sure. He's running a Mazda Cup race, and he's pretty new to the service, and he's got a nice lead, like 8 seconds over the guy behind him. And he realizes, he just has to bring it home here in the final lap, and he starts losing it. He starts crying a little bit, and he's a little upset. But it's interesting to see the emotion for sure. I love it.
So is he? I'm trying to find some information on it. Is he completely blind, or is he just? Is it just a certain part of his vision's gone? Do we know?
Legally blind tends to mean that you're just your vision's so
impaired. It's impaired.
That you count as blurry, but he probably can still see shapes and position. It's probably just really hard to read letters, and there's different degrees, and I don't know the exact definition, but it has.
I actually did find the answer to this question, Greg. It says here, I have a rare degenerative eye disease called retinitis pigmentosa, which has left me with less than 10 degrees of central vision. I also have terrible low light vision. So
bravo for him. Like that's awesome. There's a lot of people on this sim that we think are blind when they're driving, but this guy's out there proving us all right. He's doing a great job out there. Congrats on him for getting his first win, because we all know how special the first win is.
Some people go a long time without a win.
Yeah, being legally blind, I'm almost certain he cannot drive a real car, but he can win races in iRacing, which is fantastic. What a great story.
Well, he's got 25,000 views on Twitch. Let's get him some more. Bacho_Grande at Twitch.
Okay, let's talk releases and patches and hot fixes. The first one was the new UI. which doesn't have any downtime when they update it, but they did release some release notes. AI is now up to 10 car makes in a single session versus I think it was 7 before. It'd be interesting if they ever raise the rate when like official racing to 10 instead of 7.
So they're saying you can host with 10?
You can AI.
AI. Well, so obviously they found a way that they're not using because it's usually memory is what's causes all that, doesn't it? It's the reason they weren't doing it is the amount of memory that needs to do to put extra cars on the track. So obviously they're finding a way around it. So maybe it's not long until we actually have it.
I don't know. I mean, it could be that I think the car limit is because they don't want to have people with crappy computers not be able to race. And so they have a limit because of that. And so by increasing the limit with AI only, then that allows people with better computers to at least do it. The people with the crappier computers might not be able to. I don't know.
It also might not require the same amount of resources to run a larger number of cars just on a host machine instead of across the internet.
Yeah.
Because it's not just, it's having to calculate, not a whole lot of graphics, but it's having to calculate the collision boxes for every car that's on the track and send that data over the net.
Broadcast policy is now available in the UI, and that's been updated. I haven't really got my thumb on exactly what's changed, but there's some verbiage in there that basically says iRacing reserves the right to not let people broadcast certain official racing or special events. I don't know what it's all about yet. But I have noticed, like, the Coke series and stuff and these big events that they do, you used to be able to go in and ghost it or spectate it, but you can't do that anymore. They're like, they've blocked that somehow.
Probably just preventing any future problems happening with, who knows what could go on if we join in there and disrupt the service somehow. Never know if code breaks or something like that.
Okay, and a few other changes I'm not going to detail. And then, Brian, we got a patch a day later.
Yeah, so the very next day they did another zero downtime deployment, which added a couple more things. Like, for example, the banner, the UI now shows the total laps completed by members and total members online and top status bar. So that was something I always tended to look at in the website. And so now it's on the UI. So that's a pretty cool deal. Under the member info, under the driver tab, the old paint shop components has now been replaced with the brand new 3D model viewer. So that's a pretty cool deal too. There's some other issues with the store go to store drop down option when viewing a pending or current running session. So that was pretty much the big gist of this second deployment.
And then I guess we'll call it a third deployment, even though this was actually just patch 2. This included adding Venmo as an available method of payment. Tony's going to go into that a little bit more in a second. There's also a change to race control, and I'm not sure exactly what this means because the caution car just always pulls out immediately. I don't know if this means it's actually going to wait on the leader or if it just affects how it behaves if the leader happens to be in the pit.
Yeah, he's going to pick up the leader no matter if the leader's in the pit or on the track is the kind of the way it reads.
Yeah. So the pace car is now able to detect if the real race leader was actually in the pits and to detect if he came out. And it also fixed an issue where the pace field placement so that the leader is always inserted into place behind the pace car instead of whether the pace car was parked or waiting just outside. It just takes care, I guess, of some freakish issues that are happening if the leader was in pit lane when the caution came out. They've also fixed an issue with drivers starting in the pits not being able to get out on the track, especially with longer pit lanes. Also, they fixed an issue where missed starts cars were being released behind the fast pack instead of the slow pack. So this is almost considered an exploit. If you're a GT3 car, you could not grid and jump out on the field in front of all of the other GT3s that actually took the pace lap.
Oh.
Yeah. They've fixed some issues with dynamic track surface where they were being calculated too cool. There's some changes in heat racing that has to do with advancing an entire field from qualify to the feature. Something new with the test session. You can do weight penalty adjustments they've changed it from 5 kilograms to 1 kilograms. They made some adjustments to qualifying. They're still working on the damage model. Some new visual effects, some new animations, or some fixes with animations. Some new telemetry values. That's really handy for broadcasters. And then some changes to cars, including tire models and a couple. There's a new damage model for the Corvette C6, and it looks like they did some work on the new damage model for the IR18, and a bunch of new setup, and a couple of changes to track surfaces for Five Flags and Southern National.
The animation one, it says, fixed an issue with a rather uncomfortable neck condition suffered by some driver body types while using some open wheel cars. iRacing has footed the bill for these extraordinary chiropractors. Okay.
Are they going to pay for physical therapy for Barney when he needs his shoulder replaced?
He's just swinging that flag left and right?
He was definitely swinging it last week at Bristol.
Well, hey, if he needs some therapy, maybe he could pay for it using Venmo. As you can pay for, as David was saying, you can pay for iRacing using Venmo. And I am probably one of the worst guys to talk about this because I don't know what Venmo is. It's a payment thing, probably similar to PayPal. Someone that actually has access to this want to take over?
Well, Venmo is actually owned by PayPal. It's basically the same thing as PayPal. It's easier to use than PayPal, I would say. It's really user friendly and almost kind of like a social media like where you can kind of see what your friends send money to, and yeah, it's kind of weird though and creepy at the same time.
Isn't it possible with like when you're like phone to phone to be able to like if you're around somebody to quickly send? It's like passing money around too with it. I'm not familiar.
Well, I thought it goes through immediately.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like you can quickly send money. Like I hear a lot of people talk about it, like parents Venmoing their kids money, right?
Right. So like I got my kids on the phone bill and they Venmo me their monthly bill. Yeah.
So yeah, it's not available up here in Canada.
That's why we don't know about it, Tony.
I've never heard of it either. But AJ, would you use Venmo if you went to this e-racer market?
Oh, I would definitely use Venmo, probably. iRacers Market is a website marketplace where sim racers and community buys and sells. This is definitely something up my alley. I'm always looking to upgrade stuff, and I guess you could say I might be doing it on a budget. So this is a good place to look for people buying and selling sim racing products.
This is cool. So this is Parker Kligerman and his group have put this together. He put this out on Twitter this week. Hey, this is an idea we're kind of throwing around. Tell us what you guys think. And so it's like you said, classifieds for sim racing.
Is this like the grid finders you find leagues? This is the same type of site, kind of finding equipment?
Exactly. Or a Craigslist of sim racing equipment, yeah.
Awesome.
And having a name like Kligerman behind it gives it a little bit more marketing and credibility, probably.
Something maybe a little more than the Facebook Marketplace.
That place is toxic.
Here, and there's not a lot of stuff up to begin with, but you know it is like a week old, so let's keep that in mind too.
Is the iRacer, that thing's under Kligerman's name? I thought it was him and Castle had that, wasn't it?
It
or
is.
Was it just Kligerman that was first?
I think they're partners on it.
Okay.
What's neat is you can do a grid view with, pictures, a list view, or a map view. So like, if you're looking for wheels in your area, in the Phoenix area, I could actually pull up a view like that. Freaking cool. It'll be cool when people use it and we get a lot of people putting their hardware on it. Facebook Marketplace is a good place that kind of consolidates some of these sim Facebook groups where you buy and sell stuff. This could be a good challenge for that.
Well, I think the Facebook thing is a little toxic though when it comes to trying to sell stuff. Everybody's allowed to comment on it and degrade it, and then it kind of loses value sometimes in those things if you're not careful, just from people talking. But this maybe this takes out the negative context and it's just basically people contacting the seller, because even Parker Kligerman's got a wheel up for sale on here.
That was exactly my point. This is definitely probably it's a better one-shop stop. It gets you through some of those weeds of the Facebook Marketplace. You can go, I'm looking at the website here, you can categorize, it's all categorized and price and new and used and all those things that you'd like to filter through. This website has got it.
It also looks like it does have public discussions under the bottom there when you go into like one of them. So you can see people that do comment about it or ask questions about it.
I just found a Sim Experience motion simulator, $9,900 in Los Angeles. Wow.
I kind of like I like this idea. Let's hope this kind of gets some traction here, because it's nice when you I think Facebook is a little cluttered with it. This one you can at least find what you want and quickly sort through it.
Yeah, I'm definitely bookmarking this website. It's eracr.co.
Are they letting? It's not just like U.S. based or anything like that. It can be from anywhere. I can't see why it not.
I haven't seen any limitation like that. Next up, in the forums, Kyle Ryzinko is taking a survey on the forums to gather data on the correlation between account age and iRating, and is asking for as much data from the community for a school statistics class project. And I thought this was interesting because I want to know what the results are, actually. And I don't think he's published the results yet, but hopefully we'll get those.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything yet. I filled it out. I don't know about you guys, but I did fill out his survey. And I'd like to see how it winds up.
Do you think the older they are, the less iRating? I mean, that's probably the consensus of what people might think.
I don't know. Wouldn't you think that people who've been around longer in iRacing would have better results than the newer members?
Yeah,
maybe.
I don't fit that mold because.
So who's the oldest one on here?
That's me, and I just tanked my ratings actually.
So you've crossed that line, so it's going to happen for me soon, and that's what you're saying?
Well, our two youngest would be Adam and I guess you there, AJ. So, I mean, Adam's got one of the highest iRatings on the team. And Morley would be young too. It was around my age. And I think, is Rochette? I guess they would, we would all be the younger ones.
So there's probably no correlation.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, it's going by your iRacing age, right? How long you've been in the sim, not how old you are in years.
Oh, is that how you read it?
Yeah, that's how I read it. Because
it says account age, yeah.
Yes, yes. You translate how long you've been a member into how many months it's been. So, like, if you've been a 10-year member, you would be 120 months.
Yeah,
I see.
So what you're saying is the longer you've been on here, the less iRating you'll have?
No, I think the longer you've been on there, the better iRating you should have, right?
Well, you'd think that would work, but the amount of times you go up and down, and you end up.
That's true.
It looks like for someone like me, Mike, Mike, you've been around for what, over 10 years now too, haven't you? And
No,
Brian,
6,
you've been around.
7.
Brian, you've been around for a while.
Yeah, I was at I think I was 128 months or something when I did the calculation.
Like I'm 11 plus years, but I find that I've pretty much you find out where you're exactly where your iRating's gonna sit. Like my road iRating's changed over time, but my oval iRating's kind of just leveled out over the years here. It hasn't gone up or down, so it's basically put me where I probably where I'm supposed to be over long periods of time.
Right.
Generally, you can have some streaks, but unless you're, trying to run some kind of car that's just not in your wheelhouse, you're going to settle in where you probably belong. You can have your good races and your bad races.
Yeah.
This is really noticeable when I'm on the roadside, because there's no cautions on roadside. The car number is actually a little bit more of a predictor, right? Oval can be, this track just happens to suit, or the cautions just happen to fall your way, or there's enough wrecks that you really advance. But usually, if you're a low number, you tend to be faster than the guys, and if you're a high number, you tend to be slower than the guys around you.
Well, and I used to take advantage of this on the road courses in the cup cars, right? Like for ovals, when you used to be able to get the oval iRating, now you just can't do that, so you're back to roads. So it's kind of makes that even that out.
One thing that this survey doesn't take into consideration is league racers. There's guys who do league races all the time, and their iRating never fluctuates because it's not calculated into your iRating. So there's probably quite a few people who've been on the service a long time that stick mainly to league races and,
Or hosted.
Yeah, or hosted.
Like the last guest on Aftermath was that way, right? He basically doesn't do official anymore, if I remember.
Yep, there are a bunch of people like that. I mean, you're right, Greg. I'm 3,000 to 3,500 iRating on oval, and I've settled into that over the years, and that's really where I was. And then this last fall, I decided to try a couple cars that I'm not very good at, and now I'm at 2,200 iRating. And so, but I suspect if I don't get in those cars and I just run the A car, over time I'll gradually get back to that 3,000 to 3,500.
Yeah, I'm having that struggle with road cars. I like driving different cars, and I might have a certain skill level with this car, and then you try to jump in another race in another car, and you realize you might not belong, and there goes that iRating I just gained from the last race. So yeah, I'm sure everyone's got a balance, and then also if you put all your time and effort into one car, you can search for that peak where you can really get to.
Hi guys, so JR Motorsports, Dale Jr., announced on Twitter that one of their drivers, Josh Berry, took the victory in the late model race at Tri-County Motor Speedway, and he was sporting some iRacing colors on the hood of his car. So that's pretty cool. Josh, it was a 75-lap NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series at Tri-County Motor Speedway. It's a 0.4 of a mile oval Saturday night. And this is Josh's second appearance in the series this season.
That's a nice looking car. It's a simple white paint job with this interesting orange and green design down the side, but just to have the iRacing on the front hood of that Camaro looks really good. I kind of like that. Dale Jr. has been pumping Josh Berry a lot up the last little while too here, with him being an owner of him and driving him for the Xfinity Series. So if he's doing good here, and hopefully he can translate into the Xfinity Series and maybe get a ride down the road somewhere else. I want to see him do really well. I don't know about you guys.
Hey, are you just blowing smoke about the paint on that car because it has an iRacing sticker on the hood? Because that's ugly.
I thought it was a little ugly.
For us, weird. Yeah, but these paint jobs aren't these like high class paint jobs. These are just like simple
elementary
late model paint jobs.
Well, yeah, no, and I totally get that and can totally respect that, but to be honest, the iRacing logo on the hood looks totally out of place with the rest of the color scheme, just because it's a really bright lime green with an orange.
So you're saying it looks like one of Mike's cars?
Kind of an afterthought, like, oh, we have this car, and oh, let's put the a sponsor on the hood.
It's like last minute
We're not
thing.
gonna repaint the car.
Yeah. That's all I'm saying. Like, it just doesn't fit all that nicely. I mean, everything else about it, sure, whatever. That's cool. It just looks out of place. So that's why I just wanted to kind of call you out on, like, oh, this is a nice paint job. Well, it's kind of ugly.
I'm trying to find out what that sponsor is. It's on the back there. All Things Auto Racing.
All Things Orange and Green.
Actually, I think that might be the series. I'm looking it up right now.
This car would have been fine just white, is what you're saying, Tony.
Oh yeah.
Or maybe with a white or red and blue stripe down the side.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess that the other colors are either team colors or the other sponsor. They may have a secondary sponsor in the back quarter panel there.
Well, they've obviously done the 8 digit on the car to match that paint, right?
Maybe they can take some of that race winnings there and put some splashes of blue and red.
So yeah, All Things Automotive. That's actually his other sponsor, other than iRacing. That's what it is.
Is that what the color of the site or like what this thing is? Does it look like that color?
Yeah, I'm not sure what their logos look like. Yeah, but it looks kind of like almost like a Gatorade car.
It's Positive Thursdays, Tony. Positive Thursdays.
Yeah. I was being positive.
Well, if you have any sense of nostalgia, you don't think these other cars are ugly, and we have a throwback cup actually coming up. Greg West posted it, and it's going to be with the 287 cars, and it's going to be a 400-lap race at North Wilkesboro, and they're running the similar start times that all the enduro races have been starting at over the weekend.
Can you tell me what Eastern time these start times are? I can't figure out GMT of my life.
5 hours plus, or
no,
minus
4 now.
Four now. Sorry.
4 once you go like daylight savings time, it's 4 because GMT doesn't shift.
So you add 4?
You subtract 4. So
from
like
what?
22 from whatever GMT time is.
What's GMT time?
It's Greenwich Mean Time.
Now they're calling this the throwback race here, but how much longer does it sound like North Wilkesboro will be a throwback racetrack if you kind of listen to the Dale Jr. download this week? It might.
Did you listen to Door Bumper Clear?
Oh yeah,
because they actually dropped today that they're considering it was Marty Smith that was suggesting tear the asphalt up and make that the dirt track.
Yeah, there was 2 different things this week that were shot out about this track. Just sounds like they're not going to let that track die now.
Well, back to the Throwback Cup. There's 4 start times. I'll let y'all do the math if you want to figure out the exact start times. I bet money most of you will run either the Saturday 7 GMT, which is really actually that's pretty late. That's almost an Aussie time zone. But pick a time zone. You got to have a D 4.0 license, so basically effectively a C. It's the throwback cars. 30-minute practice, attached qualifying, 400 laps, dynamic weather, and it's got the standard NIS penalty limit of 17 and 25. Splits are done by iRating, and the setups are open. Field size 32.
Okay, Mike. Here we're gonna translate this for you. So it's 8:00 Friday night, Eastern.
All right.
For 3:00 Saturday morning in the early morning Eastern.
Yeah, that's an Aussie time.
8:00 in the morning Saturday, and then noon on Saturday.
I see.
Eastern.
That'd only be available for the Friday night, but that would conflict with NIS, wouldn't it?
That's going to be a long race. 400 laps at North Wilkesboro.
I think I'm going to miss this one because I'm going to miss the Wednesday race for NIS, so I can't miss Friday. So, yeah, I'm going to miss this one. I was thinking about running it, too.
That'd be a tough race. Holy cow. 400 laps in those cars at this track. And just 400 laps in those cars.
I hope it doesn't turn into a caution fest like last year's Rockingham was. Because if it took that long, it would not be epic.
Well, no, it may not. But there is an epic little video short out featuring Josh Rogers. And I can't really comment a whole lot about the content, but the production value of this thing is pretty darn good. They put together a nice little video kind of showcasing Josh Rogers. Dude is fast, and this video will tell you that. And it does got a lot of nice little eye candy. I was really impressed with how they put this together with all their cuts, and very, very professional looking.
And then it was a good story about how he got added to the team he's on, how they had an opening, they decided to bring him on and different things, and, you know, the story about that, basically.
And that command place is like a purple house.
Purple house, yeah.
It is so purple in that place. You think that the color's messed up on the cameras, but it's not.
It's pretty cool, the whole idea of the sim house, and, you know, they all just have a big room with a bunch of rigs in them, and yeah, the whole concept is just cool, and it's kind of neat to see it in the video, you know. All right, next up, hey, our good friends at Grid Finder are sponsoring the Grid Finder Invitational number 3 Daytona 75 on April 10th, including a livery competition. And
hey, Mike. Sorry to interrupt here. Grid Finder is actually hosting this race.
Aha. Not just sponsoring, but hosting. And man, trucks at Daytona, and there's prizes for the winning team. 75 laps or 85 minutes. I think they're broadcasting too.
Yes, they are.
So I put up a link on our Facebook page. So want to know more information on how to sign up and, you know, join their Discord, click on the link on our Facebook page. You can't miss it. It's got the ad for this event. Yeah, go get signed up. It looks like it'll be a good time.
Okay, pretty cool. Check that out.
Well, guys, it looks like Greg West posted in the forums of the details for the 24 hours at Nürburgring that will be held on April 23rd through the 25th. Looks like we've got... Oh, I'm looking at the wrong... I just pulled up the wrong time slot. There it is. So it looks like we've got 4 time slots. Got to have a D, 4.0 road.
Ones.
Yep, okay. Got to have a D 4.0. The sim time, the sim date, time, and date settings is probably important to people. It's April 24th. Time of day, it's starting at 2:45. So you got a couple hours before it gets dark there.
You're looking at GT3, GT4, and TCR class cars, as well as that 911 GT3 Cup.
That Cup car is a handful around that track. Any of those Porsches are.
That track is a handful. I can't memorize it.
This isn't one you guys usually do, is it?
This is the 14-mile track.
Right.
Yeah, the Nordschleife.
Nordschleife.
So you guys are doing it or no?
Oh no. Also, just anyone that was listening, those times that I listed off earlier to Mike to get him for Greenwich Mean Time are the exact same times this event is taking off at.
At least they're consistent. Now, the level of difficulty is extreme, right? Is that why you guys don't run it?
That's a long, like, it's like
just hard to memorize.
It's an 8-minute lap or something like that, too, or if I remember correctly, and you're doing that for 24 hours over, say, 3 or 4 guys. That's a true endurance race. I prefer the tracks that I can memorize the way that we're good at.
I imagine once you leave the GP circuit and start hitting the Nordschleife, there's probably no lighting, right? It's got to be dark.
Yeah, it would just be headlights. It'd be like Le Mans.
There's no lighting, and it's hard to know what visual references tell you as in which corner. It's so easy to forget where you are and take the wrong braking mark, or even enter the corner on the wrong side. You know, it's just crazy hard and way beyond me. I had to try to learn it last year, though I ended up not being needed, and I was happy that I wasn't, because it took me about an hour and a half to actually complete one lap time without an X.
See
That was probably in good conditions too, right, Dave?
Yeah, that was in daylight.
Yeah.
See, if I was going to compete in this event, I would find the slowest car so that you have the best chance to figure out where your braking points are, I guess. But they also have the worst brakes then, too, of all the cars that are on there, too. I don't know. Anybody that competes in this event and gets through it, kudos, because that 100 incident limit, and then you get for every 20 after to keep getting a drive by, that you could have 20 incidents in one lap.
Yeah, that does not sound like fun to me. I know there's like there's a lot of people who are like just super fanatics of this track, and they just love it. And they probably know every square inch of it. But I mean, I don't know how many people that's really going to be.
Well, and just recently, I'm forgetting her name right now, but the famous female racer that knows this track off by heart and does a lot of testing at it, she just recently passed away. So kind of a, she's known to that track.
Yeah, they referenced her in the Porsche Super Series a couple of times.
I'm sorry for not remembering her name. I can't remember it right now.
So, David, what else was hard?
Well, we're going to jump from the largest track of the surface to the smallest, or one of them, right? It's actually kind of large for a dirt track, but yeah, we ran dirt all week last week, and we're gonna cover it in topics instead of just results, and just see what everybody thought of their first adventures with the A car on Bristol dirt.
I didn't think it was a good idea when I first heard about NASCAR doing this, and I pretty much thought I would choke really bad. But I didn't. I actually ran pretty good. And so I came away actually a little astonished and pleasantly surprised.
I went into, I guess you guys had run the Wednesday and stuff, and a couple opens before we got to Friday night. I ran Friday night, and I was going to come in about half an hour, 45 minutes before the race and practice, and someone came over or knocked on the door, and I had to go answer it. And by the time I got back down, it was time to race. So I basically learned how to drive the track during the race. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm not a huge dirt guy. It's just not something that I normally play around with. But for some reason, sliding these cars sideways and door to door with somebody, especially in VR, and when you're looking out the side of the car at someone beside you, there's something just awesome feeling about it. And dive down to the bottom of the track and pass somebody and doing all that stuff with this car. it's kudos to NASCAR and them coming up with all this stuff to try this at Bristol, and then iRacing to quickly implement it for us. I think it was a fun week. I don't think there's many people that are going to be too upset about it.
And one of the things that was kind of fun is the cars were pretty adorable, so you could mess up and endure somebody, but still be alive for the race, right? Even down horsepower. I was running in a race with Garrett Maines, and he was down to 1,900 RPMs and still won the race.
Yeah, as long as you didn't get a meatball in these races, you just keep going, man. The car would hold up. Matter of fact, you might be better off with a little bit less horsepower. You might have a little bit better throttle control when your horsepowers are lower. I remember hearing Clip Boyer talk about stories where some of these dirt race drivers, they would purposely slow their cars down just to run them faster.
Tom Dreiling, he basically runs 3 events a week, and so when we ran Sunday night, he basically figured it out. He finally got that. It finally clicked where, I got to hold the throttle down and leave it down, and I just got to turn the wheel. And it finally, that clicked in his head, and he figured it out. And he's like, man, I want to start the week over now. Now that I figured it out, I want those races back.
Something I did figure out, though, actually, is you do want to let off the throttle before the corner so that you don't go into the corner so fast that you just go flying up it, whether you got the throttle in or not. So you still let up about the same place you would when it was pavement, but then once you actually turned into the corner, you had to get back on the gas or it wouldn't turn. It'd just go sliding.
Man, I wanted to hate on this so much. I wasn't even going to race, and then I got talked into it, and I was ready to swear at the guys.
The last thing we heard was swear at the guys. You dropped out.
Well, I guess that's probably good enough to just leave it at that. Just swear at the guys.
I was listening to you race, Tony, that night, and it sounded like you were enjoying it at some point. You were being competitive, too.
Mike, that was probably the most fun I've had on this sim in quite some time. Like in a race, especially NIS race. But yeah, I had an absolute blast. I was pleasantly surprised.
I had a lot of fun doing it too, and I did get to run the Knoxville Nationals last year with majors, and that was a nightmare because it was my first time ever, and it was in the 410, and I didn't have the wheel set up right or anything. And finally, when we got about halfway through the week, I figured out the trick that I talked about last week about turning the wheel resolution down to get better response. And that came in real handy this week, and I shared that tip with the teammates, and I heard a lot of positive feedback on that.
I got to race with Tony Rochette and Chris Scales, which I never get to race with. Like it was awesome to race with different guys on our team that normally you wouldn't be. We're not in the same splits or times to race.
I started actually. I had never run an official dirt race. I had the rookie license with a 1350 I rating. That's where it starts you at. And I got P3s in the first 2 Opens I ran. Including one with Garrett Maines. So, vroom, right up there. By the end of it, I now have a C license with a 1750 I rating after just 1 week.
David's going pro. You guys heard it here first on the podcast.
No.
I actually decided I'm going to try the Knoxville Nationals in the official iRacing Knoxville Nationals this year.
Now, Brian, you came in hot at the end of the week because of your hardware issues. You got some quick experience and kind of thrown to the fire there. I mean, what were your impressions when you jumped in?
Yeah, so I didn't get my headset. It was delivered like Sunday evening, so I didn't really get a chance to get everything set up. So I missed the race, but I did get some time on it. I ghosted with you guys, and I was spotting for you. I thought this was a pretty good representation of what this car probably was really like on dirt. The way the track blew off, especially in the corners, it would change the dynamic of the track, and you could actually, after a while, you could actually run the bottom. So you had different grooves that were opening up. Yeah, I was pretty impressed with it. I thought the track did really well as far as being dynamic and keeping things interesting, and the cars were as much out of control as you would think for a car that's even with their spoilers not like super high downforce like a sprint car would be. So yeah, I really enjoyed what little time I got on there, and I thought it was a good, very good representation.
The other surprise of the week, I think, too, is why does it take NASCAR bringing their car to dirt for us to like dirt? Why didn't we like dirt before this?
Because we're NASCAR people.
I think it's the same argument we have about the road courses now, and when they had, like, they were talking about this on the download as well, is we go through spurts as NASCAR fans. Like, we like when they designed the first, cookie cutter mile and a half track, then like what, 5 or 6 of them popped up, and we like watching those races, and now we're trying to get back to short track racing. And then what do? They get another road course, and it's exciting, and now they go up to 6 road courses. So does this gonna add a whole bunch of dirt races? I don't think so, but I think it's just whatever we jump around to, we kind of enjoy at the time. I don't think it actually, it's something that's going to last forever. It might just be something, we're going to have one race a year that's on the schedule. It's always at dirt.
Though driving that Cup car at Bristol was way different than driving the 410 at Knoxville. It was a whole different kind of, not on the same edge.
Well, in that Cup car, you can really get that thing bent out of shape and still be able to bring it back at that track. It's not unbearably hard to drive it sideways, but to make time, you have to find the right angle to get around the track at. But I think the best part of the dirt racing is the change in the track and trying to find the grip. Like that's where the best racing came, is when some areas went away, you'd slide up further up the track, and if you had to run the real high, you could get a lot of speed out of that, or you could run real low. But being able to switch your lines was a big thing that made it made the best passing too, right?
Yeah, and for both the real world and the sim world, it basically was more driver driven and less engineering driven. You're not working on 10,000th of an inch tolerances at a dirt track, right? You just kind of, there's no point. You're not working on that fine tuning of an aero package.
And you didn't have to worry about who just pitted and got tires. You didn't have to worry about fuel in it. You just drove it. It ended up being like, it's a driver's track.
Hey guys, at the end of the month, the World of Outlaws sprint cars are going to be at this Bristol track, the real one, and that is going to be one heck of a show. Those cars are going to be going so fast around that track. It's going to be a dangerous track to have those cars on there. They'll be going
11
so fast.
seconds, sure.
Have you tried it with that 410 yet?
I think they were talking about 14 seconds is what they were going to run.
Oh.
14, 15 second run. But that's pretty fast for a World of Outlaw car around a half mile, because they wouldn't have a track that big ever that they would run on dirt, would they?
Yeah, there's some half-mile tracks. They're just not quite that banked, I don't think.
Okay, banked. It would be banked. Yeah, you're right. Sorry, you're right, yeah.
It's really hard to get that banking on a dirt track.
I just think it was cool that how progressive that banking was, too, at Bristol. Like, you could technically be down on the apron and still be digging around there.
Well, it was less banking, but there wasn't an apron, really, at all. If you could get way further down. There was no blue line when you came out of the pits, right? As soon as you exited the pits, you were on the surface. You didn't have to worry about an unsafe rejoin. It's especially on the restart, that low line where you're almost in the flat part, you could gain a couple of positions down there. So I think the verdict is it was pleasantly, surprisingly more fun than any of us thought it would be.
Yeah, I think it was a lot of fun, and as a novelty race, sort of, if you will, something that they do one time a year. I think it can last, into the future as being a regular event. We already know that they're going to be doing it again next year, so I kind of hope they do it at night in the real race, because I think day dirt tracks just get too dry, too dusty, and I think at night, and the glaring on the windscreens and all. I think they'd be better off at night. I hope they wind up doing it that way. All right, guys. So, in a little bit more of a somber note, the iRacing community mourns the loss of William Marsh. He was from the sim racing paddock. So there's a couple of videos remembering William. One of them was from Boosted Media. That's one of the channels I go to on a regular basis on YouTube. And Will Ford is the gentleman who does Boosted Media, and he had a really good video that talked about William. He was a real close friend of his, and everybody's really sad to hear the news of his passing.
Yeah, he's only 28 years old, and so this has kind of come out of the blue. And he's got a great YouTube channel, Sim Racing Paddock. We've, on this podcast, have benefited from William Marsh and his videos. We've covered his videos and talked about them on this show over the years. Boy, we've lost a real talent here.
Definitely sad news. I'll pick up the next one. Oh, nope, here he comes. We'll let Tony pick it up. He's literally hopping right back in his seat as we speak. Live radio, guys.
Because it's April Fool's Day, Tony.
Say what? Well, okay, so we're talking about this Formula V coming to iRacing. Now, from the scuttlebutt that I've been reading on the forums and Facebook, this would be a pretty terrible April Fool's joke. So has this been confirmed that it is actually coming, or did they just pull the wool over our eyes for this new rookie class car, open wheel car?
So in the forums, the staff members are playing it straight like this is a real deal, even though it is April Fool's Day. But you got to remember, they announced dirt on April Fool's Day in the past, and we ended up getting dirt.
Yeah, well, and that's what I was saying. Like, this would be a terrible, because there's a lot of people really excited about this car, and it being a good, a good addition, like, to that rookie class. Give on the road side, you get two choices, right? Like just a regular type road car, and then you get the open wheel. So let's hope this is not just a joke, and we'll see it. I think they even said June that we can expect it by.
There isn't actually an open wheel rookie car, is there? Everybody just runs the Mazda and then decides if they want to go open.
Skip.
Nope, Skip's not open.
It's not. Oh, okay.
Skip's not
Rookie. It's a D class.
Oh, because it's only the Solstice is the in the Mazda that run the rookie road.
Solstice and Mazda. Right. Yeah, I hope that this is real, not. I mean, they took the time to make a CAD drawing of a Formula V car.
If you look at it, like Brian, from what you're going here, I was just gonna make this point. It's scanned. This is in the CAD program. This is exactly the same angle they always do their stuff at. I would guess it's in the works. But they're pretty good. April Fools with iRacing, you never know. They've had some pretty interesting April Fools over the years, but I believe this is probably in the works with the way that the detail is scanned on that.
How cool is it that it's a free car? It says here specifically it's going to be free.
Maybe that's the joke.
Good point.
April Fools, you gotta Venmo me money now.
So actually, a friend of mine actually owned a Formula V he raced it for a season, and I watched him race it at Summit Point in West Virginia, and they're pretty cool cars. So I hope this is a real deal. I'll definitely try it out for a few races.
What kind of motors are in those things?
It's Volkswagen motors, air cooled, just like Volkswagen Bug. They sound like bugs on steroids.
So they're probably pretty good on fuel.
Oh yeah,
and their emissions are pretty good.
So do we trust it or not? I would say it's coming, but what else did we get fooled on today, AJ?
Well, apparently good things come in small packages. Apparently that's what Fanatec is saying. DD 0.5.
A new Fanatec DD wheel?
I like how they April Fool's joke this, but if you're gonna buy that from them at that price, there probably is nothing inside that box. If it was real.
Now,
packaging is usually about that.
For the podcast listeners, I'll describe what we see here on the screen. It's a Fanatec podium wheelbase, but it's half the size of the normal podium wheelbase, and so they call it the DD 0.5 for $350.
She called the DD Stubby.
I think the hashtag soon in the bottom corner is the dead giveaway that it's fake.
Well, click the tweet where it opens up and look at the first reply to it from Thrustmaster. Give it a little shade.
Their social media banter is great right here. Thrustmaster coming at Fanatec.
Yeah, it says the joke is that it's affordable? ?
Well, you get what you pay for, right?
A direct drive wheel for $350 would be quite interesting.
Okay, so the next one was on Facebook, and it was Midwest Simulations, our friends over there, which, by the way, you can get the spotlights if you use the coupon code iRacers Lounge, 10% off. But Midwest Simulations announced their latest product, the Spotlights BFL. Tell that clown who punted you exactly what you think of their driving from up to 50 miles away. It includes your own generator so you can wheel the power of the sun directly to their bedroom window. The BFL is in limited availability. Check it out at MidwestSim.com. And it shows a giant spotlight that's got the silhouette of, guess what, the middle finger.
Bat symbol? The finger symbol?
Like the bat symbol, right.
Do they have this? They got the size for VR yet? Got to make a little bit smaller package for the VRs.
No, that one's for VR too.
Okay, and then we had the Dogitech wheel instead of the Logitech wheel. The K923, the first racing wheel for dogs. It's got Chew Force technology, which fetches in-game data for enhanced gameplay. Brings the checkered flag with a checkered wag. Developed in partnership with Pups Everywhere.
This was Tony Rochette favorite. I think this was probably one of the more clever ones of all of them, just because of the amount of time that they put into the video and everything too.
They got packaging. They even have a wheel in a box that says Chew Force on it.
It's got the paw print on the center logo. I just like the dogs with the camera streaming racing. It looks funny.
Well, the dog's sitting at the wheel, supposedly driving.
And we also have a eraser.gg posted a throwback troll from that actually came from iRacing, where they announced they were actually going to have an iRacing mobile.
Yeah, this was one of their best ones. Wasn't there two guys that used to make videos of a new real racing one too that used to come out on April Fools that we got every year? It was like something 2.0. I can't remember what they used to call it, but it used to be really a really good production video then too.
Oh yeah, that I remember that iRacing 2.0. This one was 6 years ago. The iRacing Mobile, yeah, kind of neat to look back at history and see what they've done in the past. But like I said, they've done dirt. They announced that on April 1st, and now we got this Formula V. It looks real. Okay, podcast housekeeping notes. Don't forget the Aftermath podcast is out there. Get it, guys. And our website is iRacersLounge.com. Don't forget to get the links, guys, and go to there and check everything out visually. And I did mention the Midwest Simulations. Don't forget the iRacers Lounge coupon code for 10% off. And we are on the Performance Motorsports Network. Fantasy.
Well, I guess the biggest question I'd like to ask everyone is who picked Larson?
Me.
I did.
I picked all the dirt racers. They were in that one wreck.
I know. Half of my field was wiped out in that one turn.
It was so like bittersweet for me because I was like, oh, Larson got taken out, and I was like, yes, because my lineup was hurting up to that point because I stayed right away from him. It was just a gut feeling, and yeah, that gut feeling paid off. But you know what? It sucked that he would have won if he didn't if he didn't get taken out. It would have been a heck of a battle with him and Bell. Those two were getting around the track really, really well until they didn't. But yeah, I mean, the good news is that they're going to do it again next year. So now we've got some history to go on, for next year. This was tough. Like I picked. I think Kyle Busch was the only one in my lineup of any of the normal front runners, and the rest of them, like I had Austin Dillon and Stewart in my lineup. I was just totally playing it safe and kind of expecting a lot of people to get taken out.
Well, who would have thought? I mean, if I kind of put Truex in after I saw how he did in the truck race. That kind of helped give a little bit of data, but who would have thought Stenhouse would have been a pick? Bubba Wallace was doing pretty good till he got that tire cut down late in that race. I didn't know how Joey was going to do in that race either because he had no experience. He talked about he had that one race and did some of that stuff, but he had no other prior experience on dirt, so I didn't know to have him come out of it. But it just shows you that those guys are so good at figuring stuff out too, right?
So G.I. JoJo is 29th when you look at Bristol picks. So falling through the ranks, fell down to 4th. I had a pretty good run. I'm up to 13th in points.
Yeah, and I'm just one ahead of you, Mike. I was able to bump myself up to 12th place. That's okay. That's actually not a bad position for this time of year. There's going to be a lot of movement, and that movement's not going to stop because we've got those road courses. We got Coda coming up that we know not too much about. I mean, little better data just because it's a road course, but they've never raced these cars there. This has been a tough year. It's going to continue to be tough, but man, oh man, this is fun. This is a lot of fun this year. So much strategy.
Dwayne MacArthur was 3rd in points at Bristol Dirt. Nice picks, Dwayne.
Mike, how you been doing this year with keeping up with the race and making use of that garage pick?
I haven't. My picks have been static the whole year, and I work on Sundays, so I haven't been switching people in and out.
Well, and the crazy thing is here, the next 4 weeks we got 2 short tracks with Martinsville and Richmond. Talladega, and then Kansas. Like, there's 3 of 4 track types there in those 4 races, and that's going to be hard to pick from for the next little bit here.
It's going to be a little better than kind of what we've been facing up to this point, because we kind of things are still obviously shaking out, but and we got a couple of short tracks coming up, and we know the guys that are good at short tracks, and I think we're back to back with them, which could help, because kind of expect those guys that are going to be good at it's Martinsville and then Richmond, correct? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Martinsville's not this weekend, the following weekend, then Richmond after it.
Right. Okay, so we got potential of guys getting on hot streaks going from Martinsville to Richmond. So there's a little bit of something going on there that could possibly use, and then Talladega. There's I don't know if you really want to call it a formula, but
crapshoot.
Yeah, exactly. Roll the dice, save some picks possibly. And then Kansas, which could very well be interesting, because you got 2 short tracks and you got a plate track, and then you've got a mile and a half. So the short tracks and plate tracks are, what's the temperature of these drivers' emotions going to be like heading into Kansas after those 3 races? So that could also be a factor in this. So this is exciting, man. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, it's just there's so many variables here. It's going to keep everyone on their toes.
Well, and we're 7 races in, 7 different winners. Guys like Hamlin, Harvick, Keselowski. Who else hasn't won? Bowman hasn't won. There's 7 playoff spots taken without even getting right on. 7 of 16 are taken, and you're gonna probably need a second win to guarantee a spot. It looks like this season, the way it's going.
Yeah, like what I've been trying to talk about every time it's every time that I'm on is trends, and it's hard to see those because we just haven't seen a lot of those trends starting to happen. Usually we've got a little bit of something to go off of by now, but nope, not this year.
There is one trend, and it seems to be Larson. Larson's car seems to be up front at every race so far, and let's see how long if it's going to last all season.
Yeah, and there's a problem with it. Yeah, you're right about that. We know he's fast, and my uses of him tells me that he's been really fast. So
yeah,
I gotta kind of cool my jets with him. But I guess if you can, if you're gonna burn a guy up, super fast, make sure that you're getting the most amount of points out of him for it. So, is what it is. You gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. But yeah, and no racing this weekend.
All right, we're going to talk hardware, software. Let's review Sparco. Brian.
Yeah, so it's actually Sparco Gaming, which I guess is a new division of Sparco, who does a lot of raceware for real races. But they're introducing this new Sparco Gaming Hyperdrive. So it's actually a racing shoe for gamers. It's not really made necessarily for real racing. So it's ultra comfort and maximum lightness to help your driving performance. At home or your rig. It's coming in at 59 euros, so the price is in euros, and it's actually a pretty cool looking shoe. I've actually switched to just wearing socks when I race, so I don't think I would do shoes. But if you are interested in a racing shoe, that's it's still going to be a lot less than a real fire retardant shoe would be. So it's actually probably a pretty good option if that's what you want to do.
Especially if you got that name brand too on the side of it. The Sparko name brand sometimes shoots some of those prices up, right? So $60 isn't bad. I think when you look at the image of this as a gaming shoe, you kind of think, oh, is it going to have the RGB effects on it or something like that? But this looks like a very comfortable shoe. It kind of reminds me of the top of, like, it looks like a more of like a track running shoe with a sock top. It kind of looks like a sock for around the ankle area, but it looks very comfortable.
That's exactly what that top part is. I kind of equate this to like a treaded sock, like those little slipper socks you used to get for Christmas.
I like this color scheme. The orange on black reminds me of the MPI wheel, and the seat I've been lusting over that I might buy when it goes for sale. This could be matching shoes to go with it.
Well, and it only seemed to have one. Is it only one color scheme here from looking at?
Yeah, it only had one.
Nero Rosso is what it's called.
It's not a bad option. Like, Brian, you switched to socks. Well, I actually switched to running my slippers, which are just basically a shoe. And I used to run barefoot or socked, mostly barefoot. But since moving to the slipper, I've actually found that I almost prefer it. I think I'm still on the fence a little bit, but I'm leaning more now towards enjoying having something on my feet more so, and something light and super flexible, but still have a little bit of grip on the bottom would be a nice added touch.
All right, and we got one more product from Sparko, a new sim seat.
Yeah, it's a Sparko GP gaming seat. That comes in at 460 euros. Not really sure much to say about it. It's a padded racing seat. It's kind of just looks like a regular. Maybe it's more geared towards a specific type car.
Formula
laid
bucket.
back. Very laid back.
The Sparko seats are comfortable.
Well, they're calling it a GP seat, so is that a Grand Prix gaming seat? Is that why they call it GP?
Yeah, Grand Prix as in Formula.
Yeah, but it looks kind of like it looks very comfortable for any of those other Formula seats that we kind of look at. This one looks a little bit more comfortable than a lot of those.
True, lots of padding.
Definitely not cheap to add a seat to your rig, though.
Nah, but it's a lot nicer on your tailbone when you sit for 3 hours.
Yeah, we know that with the endurance races.
That's the one thing when I was looking at the Max Papa seat, which I was looking at that last night again, drooling. It's really sits you straight up and down. It doesn't really sit back. It's more of the G, what do you call that, rally car style seat?
Well, GTs sit upright.
GT.
Yeah, they're straight up.
Straight up and down, yeah.
But the Sparko I have it's a GT one, but it's bucket seated, and so just the way it contours with your body, it evens the pressure out where you don't have a pressure point when you're sitting for a long time.
I'm guessing with those MPI ones, you probably could get a bracket and kind of tilt it back if you wanted to kind of have your legs sitting up a bit.
Yeah, I went on a little tilt in it, so that's what I was thinking is maybe just, just kind of tilt it as when you mount it.
Yeah, I have mine tilted back as far as it'll go for GT positioning.
Results. Let's go through them. NIS. Let's finish up Bristol. Friday Open. I ran, got P18. I had a good run going, top 5. And then a guy who was riding the wall came off of it, doored me down. I went nose first into the inside wall. 8 minutes damage. I was 8 laps down. I really bummed because I had such a good run on Wednesday. I thought I would have a good run Friday. David, you had a good run. P4.
Yeah, I stayed top 5 the whole race. I just hadn't quite figured out where to go on short runs, and it finished with a couple of green, white checkers, and every time I lost spots. But it was nice to stay up there towards the front and not get meatballed. Tony, you also ran that night, P16.
Yeah. My finishing position did not reflect my full road race because I was I can't remember where I qualified. I think I qualified like late teens, like pretty close to where I finished, I think. But I was up top 5 most of that race, and man, did I ever have a lot of fun. I completely doored a guy totally by accident, and he was all cool about it. I quickly apologized for doing that because the car just got away from me, and it's dirt. It is what it is. And somebody knocked into me. I think I should have wrote this down as soon as I got done the race, but I know I ended up getting knocked down pit road and had to serve a penalty and stuff. So it put me a little, a couple laps down, and it was so late in the race. 20 or 25 laps to go. There's no way I could recover out of that. So yeah, P16, but man, was that a lot of fun.
Sunday morning, I made a top split and was running top 5 most of the race. Running towards the end, got sandwiched really hard into the wall and ended up getting an 18-second meatball, required repair, and like 7 minutes of optional. I fixed it and went just 1 lap down, but then I just didn't finally get the lucky dog the way it worked out until the last green white checkered, and at that point I had to start behind all the lap cars and ended up finishing P14.
Okay. Sunday fixed. P6. I ran the back half of the top 10 all night. Only 10x by being super careful and staying low. I was as high as 3rd place, but I choked a bit on that final run. But man, I think I had a 4th on Wednesday and then a 6th on Sunday. So a great week. Brian, you did not start. You were going to start the race, but you were having goggle problems.
Yeah, I was just in a rush to get everything put together, and it just needed some time to figure itself out, and I didn't have time to give it.
Okay, and then Tyler ran with us. Tyler Williamson, P28, was behind 29 laps after a great performance of my driving skill. He had 1 meatball, 2 black flags, 3 spins, and a partridge in a pear tree. Bye-bye, Bristol. It's me, not you. I think Tyler said that was the worst race he's ever had.
Yeah, if it wasn't for bad luck in that race, he wouldn't have had any at all.
Now you came in and was watching him, right? And probably giving him some bad luck.
You might be right. Yeah, actually, I once he was kind of like way out of it, I dropped out of his race and I jumped into yours, and you did good, so maybe not. And he was still having trouble after I left, so.
Okay, so let's go into official racing. Let's talk A fix. Now, I ran some. First, I got wrecked out. Second, P11, got door slammed, was down to 1930 horsepower, was running dead last, and somehow finished 11th after a big one. So that I was going to park it. I was dead last, but I hung in there. The next one I wrecked out in 2 different races, actually. And then the next one after that, a P4. I finally put a race together and finished in a fixed. Kyle Pendergraft ran with me in one of them. He actually got wrecked out, P25. I don't think you ran too many, David, did you?
The A Opens, I ran quite a few. I just don't tend to write those down.
Okay.
I had most of them I finished towards the front. I said I was really surprised with how fun it was to run, so I started opting out of running the road courses on the off times and started just running more A Opens, even on Sunday night. I ran a couple of A Opens while y'all were doing the fixed.
Okay, how about PDS Euro Sprint?
Yeah, it's at Daytona this week, right? 2 really good sports car races this week. They're at IMSA's at Road America, and Euro is at Daytona. And first race, I took a win. I had a guy running. Did I sit on the pole? No, I didn't sit on the pole. I started second, and the guy that sat on the pole was just about 2 seconds ahead of me, almost the whole race. And I knew about the only way I was going to get around him was in the pits. So I had the pit measured down to the leader, and I didn't even have enough gas to finish the race. I came out in front of him in the pits, and he never got back to me. Took the victory. That's victory 101.
Bingo. Good win. I ran the Dallara Jet Car, or the Dallara IR01 as I call it, at Hockenheim. And ran during the day Friday. There were 20 drivers. I started P17. I made it to 9th in the first lap. The second lap, a guy from Finland runs right over the back of me from behind. Apparently, I brake too early in these cars compared to others. But yeah, giving up my road rating to enjoy this car. But I'm enjoying it.
It's still their responsibility not to run you over, even if you brake early.
Yeah, he was apologetic about it. You know, still a new track to me. I was still learning my way around. Let's talk league next. Fast Track Sim Racing League on Monday. I ran P3. I actually ran the back half of the top 10 most of the night. Not too much damage. Had a good last run and gained a couple of spots. Bristol Dirt, again, proved to be very fun, and I had a great run. Tom Dreiling ran with me. He got a did not finish. He didn't finish. UCRA at Richmond. I had another DNF. This one I spun off the late exit of 2 by myself, wrecked it bad, and then David, you DNF'd later.
Yeah, this one I was pretty mad. You get some colorful language at myself on the stream if you watch the end of it. I sped into the last green flag stop. Mad enough about that. 40-second hold, and then coming out, I looped the car as soon as I turned the limiter off in first gear. It spins around. I back around carefully and get back going forward to avoiding bringing out the caution, and I'm up in second gear, accelerating around the apron, and it loops again. I guess the tires were hot or something. Bounces off the wall onto the track, brings out a caution. I reset, and yeah, it was just pitiful.
Okay, OBRL Cup, Bristol Dirt, Tony Gross.
Yeah, the standout moment of this race was one of the restarts. Scales and I got to lead the pack, and actually, I think I logged my first ever lead laps.
You lost your audio.
How about now? Am I working now?
Yeah, we got
all right.
you.
This keyboard's got to go in the garbage. Yeah, I've never led laps with the OBRL, and this was we got to do it last weekend, and it wasn't for too long. It was about I think it was about a 7 lap run before I just started digging too far down, and you just get down too far and you spin it out, and that's what I did. I stuffed it into the pit wall and pretty much destroyed the car. But Chris, he had a good finish. I believe he was top 5. Me, by the end of it, I don't even think I did finish. That was a 200 lap race. That was huge.
All right, a good run. Let's get into final thoughts. AJ Pritchett.
Well, all my thoughts are on Spa this weekend. They got a 12-hour race going there. I'll be piloting the Lamborghini with some of my buddies, so I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, have a great run. Brian McCubbin, final thoughts.
I'm still a little bummed out about missing those races. with my headset issue, but everything's back together, and I don't usually get a whole lot of races in early in the week, so I'm looking forward this weekend to catch up on some stuff.
All right, very good. David Hall, final thought.
Dropping on the stream, MIXMAGE at twitch.tv.
Okay, very good. Greg Hectus, final thoughts.
I don't know about David. If you're looking forward to this Musket 250 this weekend for the majors race, but oh wait, no, it's not this weekend. It's 2 weeks away, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll be doing the modifieds at New Hampshire, but that's the unofficial race, I think. No, we still got 2 weeks. I don't think we're gonna.
Yeah, it's the 10th. I just looked it up. But looking forward to that coming up in the next week here. Looking forward to Martinsville next week, racing and enjoying a couple days off on a long weekend here. Get some stuff done and enjoy the weather because it's getting nice finally.
Okay, very good. Tony Groves, final thought.
Aftermath, we recorded an episode last weekend, and we had OBRL's Dwayne MacArthur on, joined us for the episode, and we had a great discussion. It was nothing but dirt. That's all we talked about. Start to finish was just dirt. That's it. But it was we had a blast. It was a fun conversation. Check it out.
Okay, very good. My final thoughts, man, it's an off week, and I can tell. I don't know what to do with myself. When it's race time, my wife's looking at me like, why are you still in the living room, And, but that happens on off weeks during the season. I think it's needed. I mean, I don't really like the off weeks, but I don't want to burn out either. So we'll take it. We'll look forward to Martinsville. I'm going to miss Wednesday because I got a prior engagement, but we'll run Friday night and we'll get it. And with that, we'll see you on the track later.